The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. If you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Welcome to the Influencer's Edge. This is the place where you come to get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques to leapfrog over the pack in sales, persuasion, and influence. Be sure you visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now sit back, tune in, and enjoy today's episode.
All right, welcome back to the Influencer's Edge. People often ask me, how the living hell do you find these fascinating guests? What can I say? I'm a magnet for fascinating. I'm fascinating myself. But today we have a guest who appeals to my science nerd side. He's an expert in neuroplasticity and how people who are entrepreneurs and own their own businesses can grow their brains past the age of 51. Now, I want to pause you right there. We'll go through the whole submitted biography, blah, 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 blah. But why 51? I'm 66, and the only thing I've noticed is I can't quite come up with obscure actors' names as quickly as possible. Otherwise, I think I'm just as creative as I ever was. But why 51? Stu Morris, by the way.
That's a great question.
I forgot to say your name, Stu Morris. See, I'm a liar. Go ahead, Stu.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much for having me on. Love your podcast. Really appreciate the opportunity to be on with your audience.
Sure.
Why 51? I typed in over 50 first, and it was taken, and over 51 wasn't. And I had the message I knew I wanted to give it to, and over 51 was available. So I nabbed it. Now it's the whole corporation's all built around it.
Got it. So let's talk about this. You're an expert in neuroplasticity. Let me talk about it. So Stu Morris is an author, a keynote speaker, and neuroplasticity educator. Let's put the pause button right there. What is neuroplasticity?
Oh, that's a great question. So neuroplasticity is the brain's amazing ability to literally reform itself. So your brain, like a muscle or any other piece of tissue in your body, can have one physical form, and your brain, through electrochemical responses, can change that. It's called a neuropathway. And you can form new neural pathways or new connections through your entire life. Where we thought it stopped about when you're 20, we know we have 70, 80-year-old, 90, 100. I'm doing an interview with a 102-year-old lady who's more neuroplastic than I am.
You better get to her fast before the opportunity requires a Ouija board or a medium.
Yes, I will get right on that. That's good advice.
Cool. So my understanding is that it was conventional wisdom many, many years ago that you're born with what you're going to have and you can never develop it past a certain age. Is that correct?
Yep. As a matter of fact, I remember that even before junior high, a biology teacher saying there's only so many brain cells. You only have so many neurons, and whenever they run out, they run out. And we know that that is not the truth. We have neuroscientists have proven that is not the case. We can watch new neurons being created on a monitor. I can watch you think or have fear or any emotion. Yeah, touch your brain with an electrode. And you won't just remember your 3rd birthday, you'll smell it, see it, feel the candles, taste the cake, your mom's perfume, whatever's going on, you relive.
Elon Musk is not a listener. Please, if you are Elon, don't watch this episode because you'll create that and someone's behind their ear or something like that.
I'm pretty sure Elon is a listener. He puts it up on X all the time.
Well, you know, what's interesting is that I am a hypnotist, and if I have someone who's a great trance subject, I can actually have them vivify all their memories, including touch, sight, smell. So the
Yep.
mechanisms in the brain are absolutely definitely there. What
Yep.
triggered, before we go into your biography and all the pre-submitted stuff, what was your moment of discovery, your process for uncovering, discovering that this was a subject that grabbed you? Was it a personal experience where you, or was it just something that academically caught your interest, or neither, or both? Or am I talking out of my ass because I haven't had coffee? What the fuck?
Nope. I think that's a good question, and I appreciate.
Gotcha. I
Nope.
told you.
You're not talking out of your ass. And so to give a very straightforward answer on that, I'd like to say there was a time, right? There's a phase. But when I was very young, about 5 years old, my Nana came from London. She was a nurse on a hospital ship, traveled the world 9 times, circumnavigated the world 9 times, spoke like 5 languages, had this penchant, this heart, this desire to train nurses, and just had this with different with people, with just their lifestyle and their language and different cultures. And she just had a real penchant for that, a real desire to know about that. And she came and lived with me. And my mom said, Stu, you need to take care of Nana. I need your help. So I thought, 5 years old, I'm taking care of Nana. Well, she was my babysitter, but she taught us how to think, how to ask questions, different cultures, how to see things from different perspectives, how important that is. And that was just incredible. When I was about 10, when actually 3 weeks after my 10th birthday, my dad passed away. And that same summer, Nana got dementia.
I'm so
and
sorry.
I took care of her and changed wet bedding, and I was a nurse, and she was a nurse, and she taught me how to be a nurse. I mean, she taught me how not just to care for people, but about people.
How old were you when you went through this?
I was 10, taking care of my Nana.
That's
10,
a
just after my dad died.
that's a tremendous stressor on, maybe even traumatic on a child that young, to step into the role of caretaker.
Yeah, well, I ended up working in the emergency department for 22 years. I worked in EMS for over 30 years. I've owned living memory care facilities for the last 25 years. So I think it probably was stressful, but it pushed it in a direction that definitely I've been able to help a lot of folks really in the emergency department, in your absolute dire crisis and need. I can step in and fix it. So it's been.
Are you a doctor?
It was hard when I was 10, I'm sure, but it's been a great learning experience for my Nana. She left a legacy.
Stu, are you an MD when you say you can step in and help?
Nope. I was an EMT, and then I worked in the emergency department treating patients for 22 years just at our local hospital. I was a tech in the emergency department, but essentially an EMT paramedic type thing. And probably a little more narrow folk skill set, because you have a doctor. And so
right, I got it.
You can't do all this stuff. Like in the ambulance, I worked for years in the ambulance, and you could have a much broader, you could do a lot, right? Because you're the highest level of authority right there medically. But in the hospital, you got to wait for the doctor. But you still treat some great patients and learn a lot in 22 years for sure.
Okay.
See how people bounce back.
All right. Now, the academic side of learning about neuroplasticity, how did that come about?
I read about it. I wrote about it. Well, my mom was a huge reader. And after my dad died, my mom got a job at the university as a resident director of a girls' dorm. So all through high school and junior high, I grew up in a freshman girls' dormitory on a college campus. So, I mean, we had an Olympic-sized pool and all the sports you can think of, and college life and all the fun. And then we had the library and stuff too. And so I liked it there. And I graduated with a degree in business, but I have a minor in human resources. And I just read a lot about neuroplasticity. And I worked a lot with patients, and especially in my memory care facilities, helping the families understand and see what's going on and how the brain works, that I just, after 25 years in memory care, I just became an expert of sorts. I just read volumes on the subject. So
have you actually seen people with traumatic here's a reason I'm interested in this, because I've known some people who had traumatic brain injury, and they actually recovered through various different methodologies. When the doctors said this is not possible, they went ahead and did it with methodologies that we can go into or we could not. But I guess the question I'm trying to formulate is, have you seen people with TBI make a recovery through neuroplasticity, or that's not your jam? Your jam is helping people with cognitive decline.
Yes, that's correct. It's not my jam, but I have after working in the hospital and seeing a lot of stroke patients or brain injury patients, for sure, I have seen how neuroplasticity can rewire the brain. Most closely, though, my daughter, when she turned 2 in the hospital, had a tumor removed from her brain, and lost the neuro pathway to her bladder.
Oh
So
my
she
God.
was 2. Now, by the time she was 5, those neural pathways those nerve cells were cut during the surgery, and so there weren't new nerve cells, or the nerve cells that the old nerve cells weren't fixed. However, the brain rerouted and made new neural pathways to her bladder, and she's just like the rest of us. She's actually a paramedic in South Carolina right now.
This is fucking amazing. I can say the word fuck on my. It's not a family show, ladies and gentlemen. You know that if you've been following. I told you, I gave Stu permission to drop F-bombs, but I'm the only one apparently. I'm the only one apparently who's doing it. Let's dive into applications for people who are over 51. Do we need to give you a break there, Stu?
Probably a breath or two, but oh man, it's over 51. Yeah,
okay. Let's talk
that
about
got my attention.
Let's talk about people who are over 51, and you're beginning to have, not you are beginning, people are beginning to have memory lapses. So your latest book, which is coming out in November, is The Power, Influence, Purpose, 10 Neuroplasticity Solutions to Build a Legacy of Impact. That word legacy has personal meaning to you. I'm trained in neurolinguistic programming. I'm trained to listen for words that matter. And you talked about how your Nana created a legacy. So legacy means something to you. It's a highly emotionally charged word. So let's talk about that. What are some of these exercises, and why do you aim at legacy? You could have just made it 10 exercises to make you more powerful, successful, and wealthy. Why did you include the word legacy, and what does legacy mean to you?
Well, why did I include, and what does legacy mean to me? Paul, that is a great question.
So
what legacy means for me is something that's going to live beyond me. Obviously, it lives beyond me, and it has a real impact. And so, real is a subjective term, but has an impact, discernible, a measurable impact on society or on the world around me, or at least my world. I'm not going to touch as many people outside of North America, probably, but there would be more impact. And so, I think that's one of the reasons I started doing podcasts. Is first of all, I love the format, and I pick shows that I love, and so I have a lot of fun doing it. But it leaves that forever; it's indelible that way. And so are books. Is kind of why I'm drawn to that. So I think that probably comes up from the fact that when I was very little, right? I was 10, my dad died, and then my Nana was taken from me, and that was a lot. And she was my best friend. And my mom and I moved to a new place, and then I grew up at a college campus, and it was just massive change. And I think one thing through it is on a college campus, you see endowments and stuff. And then my Nana left this huge amount of information on how to think and your perspective, and you're like have positive mental attitude is what they called it back then, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Right. But my Nana was big into that. She liked that. She knew you could choose how you think, and she would make a point. My mom would be, you kids, get your bedrooms clean. This is the worst looking pigsty. And then the phone would ring, and she'd be like, "Oh, hi, Virginia," and she could change her mental her state in an instant. We all can, right? And that just resonated with me, I guess, at an early age, before I could probably even wrap my head around it. It wasn't until just before my freshman year in college I did the NLP practitioner's course and did that over the summer.
With whom?
and that kind of
With whom?
that kind of solidified it. Yeah.
With whom did you do your certification?
I found a book in the library at Point Loma College in San Diego and just read through it and did the exercises.
Here I am in San Diego myself. What was the book?
Point Loma. Let's see. It was Bandler on. It was the exercises for the not the pro but the practitioner. The first one.
We had Richard. He was one of the first guests on the podcast. He's a mentor.
You had Richard Bandler as a guest on the podcast?
He was one of our first guests. He's an old mentor and semi. I would call him a friend because I don't have that honor, but he's old mentor.
Paul, you were big time. You got Bandler on your podcast. That's awesome.
I've had some great guests, and I have the sense you're already becoming one of them.
Thank you. So I guess, from that kind of helped me put, how NLP is. It organizes your brain linguistically. And so that helped me put it in perspective, maybe a little bit more, but I was still lost. I
like to think when I talk with a guest or converse or begin to really get insight into them, how their own personal history shapes the passion that they want to share with my audience. And if you had a normal, well, there's no such thing as a normal childhood, but a childhood without traumatic loss, you probably would be doing something else for sure. Not probably. I know you would have been doing something else.
Yep. I remember we grew up in a real religious family. I'm more of the F-bomb dropper like you, but
feel free.
When I was a kid, we grew up in a very religious family, went to church all the time. And everybody would say, no, it's all things work together for good. All things work together for good. And I remember, you're full of shit, right? And my dad's just died. My grandma's upset. That's bullshit. But nope, they were right. You can look at it. You don't have the perspective when you're 10 years old, but at 50, 60 years old, you have a different perspective and you can see, whoa, look at how that turned out for good. But those are because of the choices you make. And I mean, we all make a lot of bad ones. We all make a lot of good ones.
Really? Well, I would consider if you were living in a dormitory where there's lots of sorority girls, you have plenty of opportunity to make some bad choices. But let's move on. All right. So,
sisters.
Power, influence, I'm being funny here. Power, influence, purpose, 10 neuroplasticity solutions. Okay, you have the 5-minute brain hack. What is that?
There you go. So the 5-minute brain hack, it kind of depends on what it is. It's a little out of context, but it depends on what you're looking to do, right? So if you're making a decision, you've made good decisions and bad decisions. And those neural pathways are there, right? On the good decisions you made and the bad decisions you made. So you can activate those neural pathways simply by thinking about them, because that's what neuroplasticity is it's literally thinking. So when you ask yourself, what is somebody who can they can, remember things, facts and figures and important stuff in the moment you need it, right? They're very sharp that way. What do you call someone like that? Smart. You call them smart. They're not necessarily smart, but they have really good recall. But we tend to call them smart in our culture. And if you can literally train your brain to do that. And so you have already had that positive outcome you're looking for and one that you didn't like, right? And if the one needs to be strengthened, and the way you strengthen it is by using it. And so a 5-minute hack to that is just really, it's a kind of ahead of time to do about a minute or two and put your brain in a place where it's open to learning and influenceable, we like to call it. So it's easily influenceable. I just like, because it kind of sounds like invincible. And you can strengthen that neural pathway right before the decision-making process. And when you can go in, you literally, your brain is working down that path of a successful outcome already.
And
that takes about 5 minutes.
You primed it for whatever content.
You primed it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We don't teach anything new. Your brain already remembers. I remember the electrode that you put on the back of the brain. This was a 73-year-old male on the back of his brain, and he remembered his 3rd birthday. You don't forget. You don't forget, right? Your recall might suck, but you don't. Your memories are there.
That's an interesting distinction between recall and the actual memory. Interesting distinction that I hope my audience takes with them. All right.
Well, good, because you need that, or else you just go crazy, because about 99% of what your reticular activating system does, or what your brain does, is delete stuff. I mean, have you ever gone out and bought a new car?
Yes.
And then you're driving home with the new car, and they're everywhere. There's one there, and there's one there, and you think they've always been there. But your brain is a deletion machine, or else you'd be autistic by the time you were 30. And so your brain naturally has some proteins that develop around it that kind of insulate them, and it does slow your
What are those
cognitive abilities
proteins?
down.
What are those proteins, Stu?
Those amyloid proteins that slow you down, you know, they're not just amyloid proteins. I don't know off the top of my head, Paul.
Okay, that's fine. You
I'm not a
know.
biologist,
Okay.
but they're in the book. They're on page 64. Just
No, if you don't know, that's fine. I wasn't trying to quiz you. I was
no,
trying to learn from you.
but these proteins do collect around, and they slow that cognitive ability, that real neuroplastic ability. When you're very young, you can learn like 5 languages easily. When
Yes,
you're 35, you can learn 5 languages, but it's tougher and it is more difficult, right? And that's on purpose. Your brain slowed down on purpose.
there's some people. One of my teachers I would love to get on the show, but there's no way he'll do it. He's my meditation teacher, and if you have any research on the role of meditation for neuroplasticity, I've seen it. I wonder if you've seen it.
We have a chapter on it.
Hmm?
We actually have a chapter on it. Meditation, yeah, and mindfulness for neuroplasticity
Yes.
is the
Yes.
results on it are incredible.
Yes.
There's dozens of research studies on it.
One of my teachers, Shinzen Young, who's my meditation teacher, is a polyglot. He speaks 11 languages, last my count, according to my count, including 2 dead languages, Sanskrit and Pali, P-A-L-I, which is the mother tongue of Sanskrit. And he just picks them
Wow.
up. And this guy, interesting thing about Shinzen, he will tell you this himself. When he was a teenager, he smoked copious quantities of marijuana, which is supposed to be deficient, and he could not do mathematics. As he honed his focus through meditating, he became a mathematician, and he became a polyglot.
Yeah.
So that has to be due. There's no other way than neuroplasticity for that shift to have happened, correct?
That would be the vehicle for it. That is how your brain changes. So as he changed his focus from one thing to another, or he got very, very focused and wanted to get good at being a meditation, or doing meditation and mastering meditation, then yeah, his brain focused on nothing else, and it literally changed the grooves in his head until he got super smart at that thing because he was so focused on it. Anyone can do it. You already know how to tie your shoes. It's a habit. You know how to get back and forth from work. It's a habit. We don't teach anything new. Your brain already makes great habits. Your habits were based on values you started a hierarchy of values when you were a month old or less, because
How
you
could
didn't
you do
say
that?
mom loves me.
Pause,
Warmth, sustenance, food, safety.
pause, pushback time. How can you do that when you can't form memories when you're 2 months old? You don't have linguistic abilities. How can you do that?
Well, you don't have linguistic abilities, so you don't speak, but can you form memories when you're a month old? You may not be able to recall them, but you have memories.
Okay.
Like mom is warm and safe and provides sustenance and milk and nourishment and safety, and you before you even know who your mom is or your place in the world, you know that's a high value. And your brain does that automatically before you start a hierarchy of values. But sometimes we're seeing classical music played to embryos in the womb, and they have different neurological responses to things. And so there's no conclusion to that, but it seems like you can learn stuff even in utero. But there's no conclusion to that. But that doesn't matter, because we know at a month old, mom can say boo, 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 and the baby will look that direction and go that way without knowing. It doesn't have the
To
conception
push
of
back on that, one alternative explanation would be that's not forming values, that's just hardwired. It's equally, hold on a minute before you respond. It's hardwired for the baby to do that, to get attention. And it's equally hardwired inside the mother where she has to give that attention. It's a trigger that's hardwired through evolution for that to happen. It's not a matter of having values. It's just a matter of evolutionary triggers. What would you say to that? It's a more reductive, materialistic explanation.
No, I think you're absolutely right. It is
Favorite word.
hardwired. So here's a couple of things that are hardwired that we know about. Fear, because there's the fear, flight, hide kind of scenario. That's an automatic kind of thing. We've narrowed that down, the fight or flight deal. And so fear is hardwired and survival is hardwired. And so your point of saying, okay, well, mom is just really survival, and that's true. But survival is, okay, should I go outside with a saber-toothed lion or stay inside by the fire? So there's a values hierarchy to say which is less, which is more safe or which is more risky.
Got it.
Yeah.
Let's apply this. My listeners is going, this is freaking interesting, but how's it going to make more money? So let's get into that. All right. So I'm just saying. So
let's make some money.
Let's get the Skrilla, the cash, the greenbacks, the
do-re-mi,
the do-re-mi, the bread, the chips. So let's talk about how a CEO would apply this. How would the CEO apply this to make great decisions?
Wow. Yeah, CEOs, corporate leaders, they're just under a huge amount of pressure.
Yep.
Right. They answer to a lot of people, all very powerful folks, right? And the idea of losing their cognitive abilities or slowing down, having cognitive decline, those are huge concerns for those. The mental agility is crucial for maintaining the leadership and fostering innovation and being creative and all those things. So these C-suite types, they're smart, right? They're MBAs and things like that, and they've had a lot of education, and they're good readers. A lot of times they're good readers, and they know that not only diminishing cognitively affects their ability to lead, but it also directly is linked to profitability, innovation, and leadership, their effectiveness as leaders. And so they are very big on making sure that they are able to prevent cognitive decline. But also a huge thing is that they really are looking for integrity, balance between relationships, their health, and their work, because they're tired of giving up their health and dying for their job. They're tired of seeing their buddy retire at 65 and he's dead at 67. I mean, retirement's a killer. It's one of the first books I wrote here.
I agree.
I never
want to retire.
Yeah, you have to have those things. That's what they want. And so we've just developed neuroplasticity solutions for cognitive longevity around those things that you need. So if you need profitable decision-making skills, you've done that before. We can, that's one that we work on a lot. So we're really good at that one.
Yeah, but you got to give us a little bit. You've got us all hot and bothered, but you haven't given us. No, don't go there. That's a little bit too vulgar for my listeners. Give us a specific. If it doesn't take, you got to give a little bit of the secret sauce for people who want to chomp your burger. No, that didn't come out right either. I'm sorry. Give us I'm meeting you here, man. I'm probably the weirdest interviewer you've ever encountered, but the most fun.
Nope. I don't think you're not the weirdest, but I'm having a lot of fun. And you know what? That is the point. I just decided a while ago, after 22 years in emergency, I just said, man, whatever I do next, I'm going to have fun doing it. So,
well, good. I'm glad I can facilitate this. Now, give us a specific. Give us a little specific, a little unveiling one of these techniques.
Okay, so there's a lot of fuss about like morning routines, right? Now, there's some science behind the morning. You're in a different theta, beta sleep, right? Where your mind's at, where your head's going. And it's absolutely, sleep science, and we can prove that. We know that that's the case. And I'm not one, I don't want to start things on what I think would be really cool. I want to take science that we already know we can do and just be able to apply it to a specific situation. So we know a morning routine's super important to have. Right? Let's just get past that. And so if you do it correctly, right? Now you say, oh gosh, I want to form a new habit. Oh, it's so difficult. I want to do a morning routine. I want to get up and walk 30 minutes. I want to whatever you're going to do, right? I know it's hard, but it's not the end of the world. So snap the fuck out of it and get up off your ass and decide to do something for you. Do something for you, right? And you don't need to do everything. Just do one thing for 10 minutes. Can you do 10 minutes to make the rest of your life better, right? So you don't need it. It doesn't need to be simple. My dad was a baseball coach, and he said the key to success is really being able to be consistent at something, consistently hitting, consistently stepping into the pitch, into the pitch. But the key to consistency is simplicity. Keep it simple, keep it easy to do, and you'll be consistent at it. And that's what your brain already does. Neuroplasticity already works around the narrative. Your brain loves to tell stories, and it remembers things in stories. And it loves to make the narrative around an issue that you have. And so you can build that yourself. It already does that. If you didn't get a habit of tying your shoes because you just thought, oh, I'm gonna buckle down and do this for 21 days. No, bro, you just tied your shoes. Now you don't even think about it, or how to operate a car or open a door. They're all habits. You already have them. You don't need to learn anything new. You need to just simply follow the steps that your brain naturally does. Use your own neurology for something that's empowering and intelligent and thought through, so it delivers the outcome that you need. I know that's kind of not exactly an easy how-to answer, but it's not a difficult one either. It's a short amount of time, and it's consistency. And you could do it for 30 days and just for 10 minutes, wake up, do one thing different in life. It changes your life.
There's a book, I believe, called Do One Thing. And the author, I don't know if you're familiar, but the author says, only develop one new habit at a time. It will require some willpower for about 6 weeks. This whole thing that requires 21 days is bullshit. Research shows it's usually 6 weeks, do one thing at a time. And I have found it's really like today, there was so much noise of construction in the room in the complex I live to meditate. I figured I'm going to skip I'll take my morning meditation. I'll do it in the evening, but I can feel a little bit of a decline because I did not do it in the morning. I'm such a super genius, you can't tell, but
that's it. You nailed it.
Now, what do you think about these? Do you have any insight or experience or information about nootropics, substance? Let's dive into some stuff about nootropics and their relationship to neuroplasticity and make learning quicker and faster. Let's talk about that.
Good. I'm glad you brought that up. So nootropics, right? These are plant-based materials that increase oxygen to the brain. They increase the speed of synaptic responses and those kind of things in there. Those are things that we can kind of measure, right? But it seems there's more of an overall enhancement in taking them. But it seems that the more nootropics you sell, the greater the enhancement you seem to be able to find, right? And so it's hard to determine exactly what's good, what's bad, what's right? I just lean toward
bag. Excuse me. I bought a $50 bag of mushroom coffee that's maybe like yay big, and I can notice no difference other than it tastes like shit.
Yeah, just take a lion's mane pill. That'll do the same thing.
Is it lion's mane? Is that it?
Well, lion's mane's a mushroom, and it's been tied to some things. But the nootropics is another thing is that there's a lot of numbers involved. And one person likes to say, okay, it has so many milliliters per deciliter, and the next person will say it has so many milliliters per ounce, and they don't match up. And then you're always going back and forth to try to figure out a baseline of like what the purity was and what it's a lot to do. So we've just kind of looked for the sources right? Who's got the cleanest sources, the labs that are inspected by the FDA and those kind of things. And so those are not off the top of my head, but the numbers are they're in the book too, but and the locations are for sure. And then over at over51.com is the clearinghouse of information. It's everything we do for free. Everything we do for free. If you're an executive and you want one-on-one coaching, we take you through it to save you a lot of time, but it's just stupid expensive. I mean, it's thousands of dollars an hour. I'm stupid expensive. I don't work a whole lot. I just work little bits, hour or so. And then keynote talk, because we deliver a lot of that in a keynote talk as well, but that's kind of part of the package. So it's hard to narrow down and say, okay, Lion's Mane, you should take this, or you should take this nootropic or the other thing. It's really good to get an assessment, have a blood test done, see how much water you drink, and have a quick conversation, or even a checklist. The checklist, the conversations, those kind of things to have with your doctor or with yourself is on over51.com. Everything that we do for a Fortune 500 executive is on over51.com. Every brain teaser exercise, every course and application, every book and everything.
All right. We are actually over the time we normally give a guest, because this has been really fun with me messing with your head. This is not a joke. I want to reach out somehow and thank your Nana for shaping you into being the kind of person who's service-minded and impact-driven and curiosity-driven as well, to see how his world works so he can open up worlds for other people. That's a great thing about you. And you also have a great sense of humor about yourself. So again, I normally ask my guests, how can my audience stay in the conversation with you? But you've dropped it a million times. One more time, what is the website?
Over51.com.
Because a lot of the people some people listening to this could be 93 and they're over 51 and they don't remember. There's a joke I'll tell you once we're off the air. Stay on the air. Stay with me in the green room and I'll tell you the joke. You probably heard it. Thanks for coming to the Influencer's Edge, folks. We'll see you next time with another awesome episode. There may be F-bombs, there may be not. Talk to you later. Bye now.
Thank you, Paul.
The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. If you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Thank you for tuning in to the Influencer's Edge, where you get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques so you can leapfrog over the pack in sales, influence, and persuasion. Remember to visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com to enjoy even more great episodes like this one. We look forward to seeing you again on the Influencer's Edge Show.